far from perfect. And I think that is the essence.
The Kohima Press Club established the Impact Journalism Award during the COVID-19 pandemic in 2020, mainly to acknowledge the contributions of media professionals to motivate and encourage them to continue pursuing quality journalism while promoting social justice. The pandemic affected all spheres of life, including the news industry, and it was during that difficult period that many journalists, as frontline workers, did outstanding work that resulted in governments taking action towards improving the services and healthcare facilities for the people. Nagaland was no different. This greatly inspired the Kohima Press Club to introduce an award to give recognition to the members of the press fraternity in the state for excellence in journalism. The Kohima Press Club Impact Journalism Award has now become a yearly honor and the only award in Nagaland that is given to journalists in recognition of their professional work. The award consists of a citation and a cash prize. The process of selecting recipients runs for the preceding year, wherein the work of the nominees are scrutinized on the basis of the significance of news stories, the skill, efforts, and originality of the journalists, and the impact of the news stories, among other standards. This is purely carried out by the Executive Council, the decision-making body of the Kohima Press Club. Before I go into the announcement of this year's recipient, allow me to read out the roll of honor since the awards year of inception. Atonot Sukru Kensei and Toing Saranam were the first recipients of the Impact Journalism Award in 2020. Their powerful and probing reportage during the pandemic resulted in action and redressal from the concerned authorities, particularly in the health sector. 2021, Im Kong Walling, in recognition of his outstanding series of work highlighting the problems and potentials of the power sector in Nagaland. 2022, Visharita Krocha, in appreciation of her exceptional contribution towards rural journalism. 2023, Dr. Mualem Bajamir, in recognition of his in-depth work with regard to the digital competence of government departments in Nagaland, which prompted many departments to leverage their IT performances in the public domain. 2024, Imti Longchar, in recognition of his work which underscored the life and struggles of the communities living close to the Indo-Myanmar international border, particularly in the eastern district of Noklak. This year, the Kohima Press Club is pleased to announce that the Impact Journalism Award 2025 is being conferred to Raivolur Hako of Eastern Mirror. Raivolur, whom we fondly call Ivo, has in the past 1 year exceptionally reported a wide range of subjects from sports to courts, from highlighting stories in the socio-economic sector to balancing the use of artificial intelligence, from gender-related features to sustainable agricultural practices, from covering music and entertainment to politics and slogging the crime beat as well. She is quiet, friendly, compassionate, and humble as a person, but professionally, she is known to be a strict stickler for accuracy, persistence, and objectivity. Her work exemplifies that of Nagaland journalists in general. We don't have a specific beat and we can't afford to specialize in a single topic or subject, mainly due to shortage of manpower. However, IVO's work in the past year, covering a multiple range of topics, going out of her way, traveling to remote areas to deliver comprehensive, objective, and accurate first-hand gathered information and reports, has stood out as the best of us. I would now like to call upon Ray Hako to come forward and receive the Kohima Press Club Impact Journalism Award 2025.
Media Fellowship program helped me in understand better the activities and challenge of the construction industry in Nagaland. One area of concern is Nagaland building by law, which is yet to be enforced in Nagaland, and we can see rental construction everywhere. I have not touched this area this time, but I hope that one of the fellow in the upcoming fellowship will pick up this topic and do the necessary things. Coming back to my observation during 2025 Media Fellowship program, one common thing I came to know from the construction worker is that many had not taken formal training. Many enter into this job out of their personal interest and as a self-employment venture. Sadly, many were unaware of the various welfare schemes designed for construction workers by the government. Many do not even know the scheme about ISRAM, and they are also not aware of the existence of NBOCWWB, which is extending many schemes to the construction workers. Sadly, many were unaware of the various welfare scheme designed by the government. Many are yet to enroll with the labor department. Many are not even registered with health insurance scheme. Many are satisfied with the daily wage at rupees 700 to rupees 1,000. Through this platform, I would like to request to the concerned department to accommodate all the deserving construction workers into the welfare-related scheme for the social security. Although I had completed the task of 2025 Media Fellowship program, I take it as a starting point of my responsibility to push the construction industry forward. For this, I wish to continue my association with the Labor Department in the area of creation of adequate awareness program on labor welfare scheme and other regulation for the construction workers. Lastly, I wish Media Fellowship program all success in the coming days. Thank you.
Most of you are aware that Kohima Press Club, Nagaland Building and Other Construction Workers Welfare Board Media Fellowship was first conceived and initiated in the year 2022 under the chairmanship of Dr. Kekrie Human. I would say this particular year marked the beginning of a journey that would unfold many remarkable stories in the construction industry. Since its inception, the board has continued the legacy of this one-of-a-kind media initiative, which is also the only running media fellowship in the state. And I want to place on record our gratitude to the CEO of NBOCWWB, T. Chubayanger, although he could not join us this afternoon, for taking personal interest to ensure that we keep the Media Fellowship running. With the completion of 4 rounds of the Media Fellowship this year, we've had several incredible stories emerging out of the fellowship. The stories of the fellows have engaged us and also educated us on many levels. There were stories that even pleasantly surprised us because if you come to think of it, how interesting can the story surrounding construction sector be? But our fellows have once again proved the profound impact of storytelling and that they are powerful mediums in educating and shaping minds in the society. Till date, we have had 14 media fellows under the KPC and NBOCWWB Media Fellowship from different districts across the state, including Kohima, Dimapur, Mokchun, and Noklak. In these 4 years, altogether, our fellows have produced 58 extraordinary stories, including visual and photo stories. Every year, we give out the completion certificates on National Press Day, and I would also like to extend my heartiest congratulations to the 3 fellows, Chizokho Vero from Kohima, Shong Mobi from Noklak, and Yarden Jamir from Mokchun of KPC and NBOCWWB Media Fellowship 2025, who have successfully completed their fellowship. We hope that you will continue in your endeavor to highlight unexplored stories in your pursuit of journalism. Also, on behalf of the Kohima Press Club, I would also like to extend my sincere thanks to the Nagaland Building and other construction workers welfare board, who is represented today by the Deputy CEO, Engineer Vikeheto Naki. We thank you for providing our journalists with the resources and support to produce high quality, in-depth work on the construction industry and look forward to your continued association in the days to come. Thank you.
The Naga media industry, as we know, is homegrown. And I think that is so important for us to know that it is homegrown and one that has been built from the ground up by our elders and consolidated by successive generations. And today, it is being strengthened by people like yourself, young men and women, who are committed to upholding with integrity the ethics and values of quality news through the lens of fact-based truth, accuracy, transparency, accountability, and fairness. And above all this, it is the commitment, your commitment, of being independent and free so that the media can perform with credibility and without fear and without conflicts of interest, and yes, without bias or affiliations. With that in mind, perhaps today is a fitting reminder to exercise media ethics and values and to bring it alive to everyday realities. I must confess, I am no journalist and I have never claimed to be one. So you as professional media practitioners are the experts here in the field. My experience with the media is a little different. For the last 20 years, I have worked closely with editorial teams, field reporters and correspondents, graphic designers, administrators, managers, printing press operators, advertising and marketing representatives, paper distributors, and support staff, trying to put into practice an idea called the Morung Express. Having this background has really helped me to form some perspective and an understanding as an outsider and yet also as an insider. So, in the spirit of co-learning, I will engage with this year's theme, Safeguarding Press Credibility Amidst Rising Misinformation, by sharing 2 dilemmas and concluding with a vox populi, the voice of the people. The theme, I think you'll agree with me, the theme is quite vast. The questions of credibility and information are, however, the essence of why media exists, right? The media exists because it's grappling and is engaging with the question of credibility and information. It's the very foundation of why, the very rationale of why media exists. Misinformation is not new. Will I be wrong in saying that it is as old as human history? And yet, its intensity, scope, frequency, and degree have rapidly increased, even as media platforms have expanded beyond traditional forms. And yet, it is important for us to remember the intent and means of disseminating information and misinformation are creating a very highly polarized media ecosystem in the world today. These conditions make it all the more important for the media to differentiate facts and non-facts. And so, my first dilemma, the dilemma of truth. Manish Maheshwari, the former head of Twitter India, in his essay on India's deepfake dilemma, published in Fair Observer, perhaps some of you have come across this, he makes an insightful observation. He says, if the 20th century was about who controlled oil, the 21st century will be about who controls truth. Just let me repeat that. If the 20th century was about who controlled oil, the 21st century will be about who controls truth. And he goes on to say, India, the world's largest democracy, has just entered this race, the race to control truth. Manish points out how India's digital policy, patterns and evolution from data localization to AI regulation and eventually the assertion of digital sovereignty. The debate which started on where data should reside has become a question of who decides what's real. Just imagine that. The debate which started on where data should reside has become a question of who decides what's real. Just imagine the implications of that statement. The question of who decides what's real. And so, my friends, with prudence, the Naga media needs to engage with this question of who decides what is real. Because by implication, it raises the practice of truth sovereignty. By implication, it raises the practice of truth sovereignty, which becomes a matter of soft power and realpolitik. For a moment, I would want all of us to reflect on what it means to hear and to listen to this sentence, the 21st century will be about who controls truth. In effect, truth is being reduced to a commodity, right? To be owned, to be monopolized, and to be controlled. This has implications on whether this truth is real or unreal, and to what degree. Which in turn directly impacts trust and credibility. By owning and weaponizing truth, it becomes militarized by realpolitik. and reduced to a channel of confrontation and polarization. So, what then becomes of the truth, which is based on facts and evidence with a capacity to connect, to free, to emancipate, and to heal? So, what becomes of the truth? And I think it is so important as journalists to engage with this question. And so, to me, I don't have answers. So, to me, I come with this dilemma to present it to you. The dilemma of truth in the Naga context is even more complex. The interplay of history, geography, and politics often veils the truth or gives rise to one based on cognitive bias that breeds distrust. In such situations, the fact-based truth becomes the first casualty. And subjective feelings, my feelings, are perceived as the truth. As a result, it is people's feelings that matter more than the truth. It is people's feelings that matter more than the truth. This complex tension between feelings and facts impact how the media operates in the Naga context, and perhaps even beyond our world, the Naga world, so to speak. The challenge, therefore, is how can the Naga media, the media in Nagaland, build a bridge that narrows the gap between feelings and facts? So I'm saying that there is a gap between feelings and facts. And if the news are based on feelings, then the gap between feelings and facts are going further and further apart. And the further it goes apart, what becomes of the world that we live in? And so can you, as media practitioners, build a bridge to reduce the gap between feelings and facts? The journalist George Orwell, and I'm sure most of you have heard of him, was insightful and visionary to point out that telling the truth is revolutionary. Telling the truth, speaking the truth is revolutionary. Perhaps this is a punchline for the day. Give it a thought. My second dilemma is the dilemma of the power of context. So my first dilemma was the dilemma of truth. My second dilemma is the power of context. There's a saying that a good storyteller understands the power of context in order to create meaning and relevance. In a similar way, journalism is about harnessing this power of context in order to build credible relationships and cultivate trust with its readers and viewers. Today, even as the Naga political question is in a state of flux, the situation offers a much needed historical opportunity for the people to find ways to co-learn, to think together, and to identify common solutions towards healing and reconciliation. However, such processes are never certain. Neither are they straightforward, neither should they be. This is because the process itself is dynamic and organic as it deeply explores the root causes and common goals in inclusive and participatory ways for sustainable outcomes. Simultaneously, the market forces of globalization and the 21st notion of individualism have entered Naga life and culture. Governance today is more entrenched in patrimonial rule. During this time, entrepreneurship is evolving, the arts and the musics are flourishing, or so it seems. Mobility has increased, and the local capacity building is being fostered. Nagaland today is projected and curated as a unique tourist destination by a state-led tourism policy where people and culture are reduced to a living museum. And so by appearance, Nagaland is a modern state only by its outward form. And amidst the increasing mix of turbulence, contradiction, and transformation, new narratives emerge to challenge the old. The Naga identity is directly impacted by many factors, including increasing assimilation, greed, selfishness, consumerism and materialism, systemic corruption, state centered development, and a widening economic divide. All this is changing demography. It is changing the Naga demography, including social fragmentation, identity based polarizations, and instigating cultural shifts where the people are no longer makers of their own culture. Today, it is easier to reinforce uncertainties and widen differences rather than reconnect and rebuild relationships that strengthen peaceful coexistence. The media, you and I, all of us, we're not free from these realities. In a nutshell, I'm just, throwing out some of this because I'm saying you and I are not free from these realities. We are living within these realities. We are living within this context. So these changing power dynamics, transitional politics, require the media and journalists in particular to be acutely aware of who is defining the narratives and for what purposes. This is crucial because currently Nagas are not generating new stories that stimulate new imaginations. We are not generating new stories that stimulate new imaginations. And yet, the old is dying, but the new cannot be born. And so, as a result, the conforming and complacent status quo is further entrenched as the crisis is being played out through the interplay of a history, geography, and politics. This, as you would know, is just the tip of the iceberg. This is just the tip of the iceberg, the tip that we see, but there's a whole lot that we do not see. And so the Naga media needs to objectively reflect on whether it has the moral courage to speak out truth to power by, 4 points: rising above individual established positions and going beyond describing a situation merely in terms of positions and official statements. Second, cultivating an understanding of in-depth news led by facts, uncovering the truth behind the headlines. The third, investigating and breaking stories that examine root causes by questioning power structures and practices. And fourth, critiquing whether the policies, transitions, and changes represent people's interests. Friends, all too often, the context, the power of context is taken for granted. And the media engages in a monologue where the media is only speaking to itself. For the media to uphold the fourth pillar of democracy, it needs to move from monologue to a dialogue and truthfully engage with this power of context. Now, how we move from a monologue to a dialogue, I don't know. Perhaps in the course of our introduction, we will try to find some ways of doing that. This meaning goes beyond, this means us, the media, going beyond its echo chambers. By extension, the Naga media's credibility and the people's trust is based on upholding the ethical values and principles enshrined in the free press. And so, in lieu of a conclusion, elevating praxis. Elevating praxis. As you would know, journalism or media generally is a praxis, one that is incrementally evolving with the interplay of action and reflection. Journalism is a praxis. Action, reflection, action, reflection, action, reflection. And so today on Press Day, let us elevate praxis by celebrating that journalism is not static. So by saying journalism is praxis, it means journalism is not static. It is dynamic and needs to evolve with the shifting times. So in conclusion, I'm sharing a vox populi, the voice of the people. So these are not my views. These, whenever I'm invited to share reflections, I try not to only share my point of view. I reach out to individuals to also reflect and to suggest and to contribute points so that I incorporate it in my reflection. So these are some points of how media can contribute to empower and enable a more informed, proactive, and vibrant citizen. 1. The media has a transformative role in making citizens well-informed through accurate, contextual, and people-centered reportage. This can be done through dialogue, while also highlighting the roles and responsibilities of different organizations and institutions so that they can be held accountable. 2. When relevant to local situations, contextualize and bring home implications of global events and policies. So one of the suggestions that people were saying that it's too local. Yes, keep it local, but also the things that are happening in the world, how do you bring it back to our readers and viewers in a way that makes sense to them? Contextualizing. 3, encourage proactive rather than reactive engagement on issues by including the knowledge, data, opinions, and reflections of experts that may help people to think outside the box. 4, the narratives around Naga issues is dominated by the voices of few leaders and intellectuals. This can marginalize the perspective of women, youth, grassroots communities, and other minority groups. The media needs to consistently and consciously create inclusive, participatory platforms by dedicating more time and putting effort to travel, build more networks, learning and understanding the perspective across society and not just a few. When people see their realities reflected in the media, they also feel part of the conversation. This may help break down the narrative of the powerful, enable a better understanding of community well-being, and empower citizens from all backgrounds. 5, media can also adopt a solution journalism approach. And that person has put it in quotes. This means reporting on positive and constructive stories of hope within the Naga context. Also, elicit responses on issues that the public want the media to cover. 6. Accurate and detailed stories can foster critical thinking, enable civic engagement, mobilize communities for action, and translate online engagement into real world change and policy outcomes. 7. True investigative journalism and consistent reporting on public affairs, media can be a watchdog, exposing corruption, scrutinizing policies, and holding public officials accountable. However, the media needs to take immense care and effort to report accurate information based on facts and figures. This empowers citizens to hold their leaders and representatives to account and participate in democratic processes. 8. Prioritize issue-based reportage and in-depth stories related to the well-being of the citizens instead of focusing on more sensational news. This helps in building public trust and credibility. So these are 8 points, which has been put together, and it has come from different individuals, your readers and your viewers. It's not mine, it's theirs. And I put it in before you. Vox Populi on how journalists can improve quality news reporting. Now, this is particularly for the journalists. A. Responsible reporting, fact checking, being conscious of the implications and consequences of sensationalizing issues. B. Objectivity, being mindful and rising above personal, tribal, and regional affiliations while reporting. These are very practical suggestions that are being made. Train and partner with local writers. Empower them to write. Journalists co-author with public individuals. They could be teachers, they could be lawyers, they could be church workers, they could be community leaders, so on and so forth. But it's about co-authoring. C. While reporting on events, go past the content issued in press releases and speeches. Provide overview and highlight key points that emerge. Also emphasize field engagement, diversify resources, and sharpen stories grounded on facts. Promote research-based reporting. It is not about what people want to hear, but how reportage increases people's understanding. Also, data literacy and the methods of collection, defining and maintaining ethical standards will produce journalism that is trustworthy, impactful, and one that will respond to the needs of the community. D. Among the 5 fundamentals of journalism, when, what, where, why, and how, something that all of you are aware, this respondent says, focus on the why. Focus on the why, since it is at the heart of a good story. A story that explains why it happened provides context and meaning and is the primary tool of accountability. By providing credible, evidence-based explanations, journalists demonstrate a commitment to truth, which in turn builds public trust. The why is simply more useful and helps people understand the events. It helps people to understand the events and how it affects them, as it provides the context to move beyond what happened to explain why it matters. Why? To explain what happens, to return to why it matters. E. In Nagaland, news reporters from digital media have the tendency of giving a conclusion in their report, which often is judgmental, moralistic, is biased. The news report and the credibility of the journalist can improve the quality and relevance of the news by doing away with such habit. This person says they should report the facts and stop interpreting it for the public. So again, this is a view that is coming from a member of the public. Report the facts and we will interpret the facts. Don't interpret it for us. So these are a set of points, particularly for journalists. It is for you to take it, reflect, see what works for you, what doesn't work for you. Because in conclusion, the point, and it so happened that I think it was yesterday that the team was announced, right? Was it yesterday or the night before? And I had already collected these a few days ago, but somehow it just merged in because the Vox Populi somehow is resonating with the team. And so in conclusion, the 21st century should not be about who controls truth and decides what is real. The 21st century, we're already, the first quarter has passed. The remaining should not be about who controls truth and decides what is real. Hence, the media in Nagaland needs reimagining and redefining itself in these shifting times to become a credible and reliable entity with the responsibility to facilitate and even nurture critical thinking and consciousness through quality news. The emphasis on quality news. To enable this, the Naga media needs to relentlessly tell fact-based stories as a way of emancipating the truth. By telling fact-based stories, it's a way of emancipating the truth in the common interest and dignity of a shared humanity. So if as journalists, you're able to consistently focus on telling stories based on evidence, based on facts, by doing that, you're emancipating the truth. And the emancipated truth is in the common interest and dignity of a shared humanity.
Such an honor for me because 7 years into this profession and I've never felt this validated or encouraged. So I really want to thank KPC President led by our Madam Alice Husche and her team as well as the Executive Council. Back in 2014, when I joined St. Aloysius College as a Mass Communication and Media Studies student, I was determined to become one of the journalists, not for any other reasons, but because I thought the journalist looks cool and respectable, which is far from what I imagined, being into this field for some years now. If I may be blunt here, and earlier speakers have also mentioned, in Nagaland, our media houses are short-staffed and they cannot afford to hire many reporters, each for a specific beat. So when I joined Eastern Mirror in 2018, yes, a handful of us reporters had to cover everything, every beat from I can remember covering a fried chicken opening outlet and then beauty salon, all those kind of events. And then from more serious topics like the crimes, the social and developmental issues, all sorts of, I won't name it, it's the byline stories, all in a tight deadlines. So, but all these experience have led me here and be standing here in front of you all. On several occasions, I come across my friends from outside the state. They used to ask, "What beat do you cover?" And then I'm lost for words. I would tell them every beat, and then this has to be followed with an explanation of the Nagaland media scenario to them as well. So my friend Medo and I, we used to always talk about this topic as well, and we would conclude that it's actually way more interesting to cover every beat than just stick ourselves to one topic. Um, yeah, I'm really thankful to the Kohima Press Club. It has taught me so much. I mean, being able to cover all sorts of topics have taught me so much and greatly shaped my outlook on things happening around us and the people around us. So, yeah, most importantly, for being here, able to stand in front of you all this afternoon. Yeah, I also want to take this time to thank my editor and colleagues for the support and guidance, for my families, for all the sacrifices that they have made in my absence. And to all my friends, all of you here, thank you for being there and taking care of me. And also to all those who have vehicles for transporting me back and forth from reporting. I will remember them always. And yeah, above all, to Almighty God for this life and for this profession. They say we reporters are the legs and hands and ears and eyes of the public. And I do believe that what we do in this small part of the region called Nagaland, what our stories published may go noticed and even unnoticed most of the time. But it's important that we keep telling our stories to the people and get it out there. If not to the world, to ourselves, because they matter. And this award, I want to dedicate it to all of us here, everyone in this room, not to get tired of telling our stories to the people. Thank you, KPC Long.